Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Sing Confidently Live Creatively podcast. Estelle here. Today, we're getting into what are the vocal registers for singers, specifically female voices. So, anyone who sings in the higher range, right? Sings in, like, typically has a higher voice. Individuals born female, assigned female at birth. These are the voices that I'm going to be focusing on in this episode. And there is overlap with individuals who are assigned male at birth and male voices, but I'm just gonna, I'm gonna just focus on female voices because it's a little bit different because of the anatomy of the male voice versus the female voice. So yeah, I'm gonna break it down. And before I even talk about what the registers are, I want to talk about why this even matters. Why am I talking about this? Why is this important for you as you're performing and becoming a singer and pursuing the arts and performing arts and singing with more intention and maybe even professionally as an adult? Um, this is why it matters. First of all, it matters because you need to know about your own voice, right? To know how your voice actually works as an instrument is super, super important so that you can be a healthy singer, so that you can take care of your voice, so that you can notice when things are off, and so that you know like where you are in your voice. Like, when are you in your chest voice? When are you mixing? When are you adding this stylistic thing here? So you know more about your instrument. So that's one thing. And then also because there are just different names and there's different terminology that people use that you'll hear voice teachers use, vocal coaches use all over. Like so much different terminology. So I want to kind of like go through as much of the terminology as I can think of and kind of break it down for you. To me, I don't really care as much because it's all semantics. And as long as we have an understanding about like what the concept is, then I don't really care whether you use chest voice or thick chords. Like it doesn't matter the terminology to me. We're talking about the same thing, and that's what matters to me. But yeah, I'll go through some of the different names. And then also, it's important to talk about this and like this vocal registers matter because it just gives you the ability as a singer to be able to switch between and utilize these registers and to access them easily. Like when you know what they are, you can then like start to use them with more intention. So you might not really know why the chest voice is um produces lower notes, lower pitches, and why does that matter to you as a singer? And I'm going to get into that. So I'm going to break down what the registers are so you know what they are for women, for female singers. Again, when I'm referring to female singers, I'm referring to assigned female at birth singers, okay? So people who have higher voices. All right. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Estelle. I'm a singer and performer myself, and I teach voice online as well as freelance with other studios in North Carolina. And I also am teaching music in the next semester at a school. So I am like, I'm also doing my master's in music and music education. So I'm like really studying the voice, really studying music. And I love this kind of stuff. I love to geek out about like the technical things and the anatomy and stuff like that. It's fun to me. So if you like all that stuff too, welcome. Thank you so much for listening. I also love theater, musical theater, and yeah, performing on stage is like also my favorite thing ever aside from teaching voice. So yeah, if that's your vibe and if you love that kind of stuff too, then welcome. I'm all about helping you and myself build confidence as a singer and a performer because I know what it's like to not be a performing and not pursuing this with intention. And then deciding to do it and deciding to want to become like next level and want to really become the best performer and singer that you can be. That's been my journey, that's been my process. And so I want to share what I've learned with you and to continue to grow alongside you. So that's what this podcast is all about. Welcome. I haven't like done a little intro in a while, so I thought I'd pop that in there. If you all have any questions on today's episodes or you have extra thoughts or you particularly like this episode today, I would love for you to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. So if you are listening on your phone, you can just go to your Apple Podcasts app and scroll down all the way to the bottom of this this podcast, not the episode, but you have to go back to like the main podcast, I think. And you can scroll all the way down to where it says rate and review. And you can just leave a review and let me know what you think of the show, if it's helpful to you. And if you have additional questions or things that you'd like me to talk about, you can leave it in there and I will check it as well. Okay. All right. So, first of all, we've talked about why this matters. Why does it matter for us to learn about the registers as singers? But first, before I go into what the registers are, I also want to give a little definition. So, what is a register? And I've taken this from one of my professors, and I think she took it from Barbara Dosher, who's the author of a book called, I believe it's called The Functional Unity of the Singing Voice. And so that's what this quote is. It's either a quote from the book or the quote from my professor, but um, my professor defined a register as consecutive tones produced by the same mechanism with similar voice quality. So what that means is just you have pitches back to back, right? That are, occurring consecutively and they have the same quality to them and they're produced in the same way or in a similar way. So that is what a register is defined as being like the same mechanism as in the same, like the muscles are working in the same way to produce these lower notes. And then the muscles are working in a different way to produce these higher notes, right? So they have, and then the lower notes have a similar quality to each other. So if I'm singing, let's do la, let's do this on la. If I'm singing la, 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 that's all in my chest voice, absolutely. But they're different notes, but they have the same quality to them, right? So that means that's happening in one particular register. Versus if I sing these notes, la, 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 la. I don't know why I'm in a minor key, but whatever. Those notes are also different pitches, but they are occurring and they have the same quality to them. They're all light and airy, and that's in my head voice, right? So that is how we can tell that it's in one register. It's because they have the same quality, even though they're different sounds, different pitches, but they sound similar to each other in quality. Okay, the vibe is the same. Okay. So that's what a register is. And then they're also being produced by the same set of muscles. So like when I'm singing the la, 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 my vocal folds are thicker and that is what's producing those lower pitches versus when I'm singing la, 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 or whatever notes that I sang before. Those are where my vocal folds are thinner, and so that's producing that lighter sound, the lighter pitch, higher pitch. So yeah, that is a register. So now what are these main registers? Okay, it's not just chest voice and head voice actually. The first and the lowest register, and I will say that these also apply to male voices, but I'm mainly gonna speak in reference to female voices. So the first register is called by some mode 0. It's also called fry. It's also called growl. I believe it's also called pulse. So again, different terminology, right? This is the lowest register. This is when you hear this like that sound, you know? Okay, go ahead and try this. We're all gonna be trying things together in this episode also. You're gonna be singing with me. Okay, so let's try this. We're gonna do a nice low fry sound. Can you do this? That is that lowest part of your voice. It requires very little support. And it's very, very, it's just like there's like no support. You don't really need a lot of air down there. And so, yeah, that is that. That's mode 0. That's the lowest. After we get out of that register, then you go up from to chest voice. So that is the second register, mode 1. So mode 0 is the lowest. That's the fry, growl, pulse. That's the lowest register. And then you have the one up from that, which is mode 1. This is chest voice. also called thick chords because your vocal cords are very thick in order to produce that low pitch. Also called, what else is it called? Lower register. Sometimes I just refer to it as the lower register. Also called heavy voice, heavy mode, heavy registration, right? So you might hear heavy registration, you might hear mode 1, you might hear chest voice. These are just different terminologies to describe the same register, okay? And this is the register where we are singing that la, 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 la. Can you sing that with me? La, 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 la. Do you feel that in your chest voice? It's referred to as the chest voice because you can feel oftentimes you can feel sympathetic vibration in your chest area, even though your voice is still in your throat, right? It's still in your larynx rather, and it's still resonating in your throat and your mouth, but you can feel some sympathetic vibration in your chest. So that's why it's referred to as the chest voice, okay? All right, so once we come out of the chest voice, there's technically this vague register that is called the middle voice. I'm going to come back to that in a little bit, but that's technically what's above mode 1 in some pedagogue circles, okay? So some people will refer to it as middle voice, but I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. After that, we have mode 2, which is head voice. It's also called thin chords because your vocal folds are thinner up there. It's also referred to as light mechanism or light register, light registration, light mechanism. Sometimes I call it the upper register or lighter register. So again, different terminology. It's also sometimes referred to as falsetto. This is where it really differs based on who's teaching you, and it's kind of referred to as falsetto usually more for men, for male voices, but for female voices it's usually looked at as like a stylistic thing. I'll get back to that in a second, but that's another term that you might hear. All that is that it's the lighter register where your vocal folds are thinner. And so let's sing in that register together. I'm going to sing first and you can sing with me. We're going to go la, 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 la. Can you sing that with me? La, 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 la. I'm trying to be very careful not to mix there, and I'll talk about what that is in a second, but that is full light head voice. Very light, very airy, very pretty, very princess-like, right? Okay. All right. So now you know those main ones. And now the last one is the highest register, and that's called mode 3. This is the whistle register. And that is what I'm not going to be singing right now because I haven't warmed up today. But it is the highest register. It is above head voice. And it's super, super high. Think Mariah Carey. Think, who else? Whitney Houston. Think like super, super high whistle notes. That is the highest register. Okay. And yeah, that is, those are the registers. So we had mode 0, which is that fry, pulse, growl register down here. And then we had mode 1, which is down here, kind of like where we speak. That's the chest voice, thick chords, lower register, heavy registration, heavy mode. And then we technically have like a middle area that I'll talk about in a moment. And then we have mode 2, which is head voice, light register, thin chords, light registration, light mode. And then we have mode 3, which is whistle register. Okay? Mode 0, mode 1, mode 2, mode 3. And in between mode 1 and mode 2, aka chest voice and head voice, there is a middle register that is not a register in the same way that other registers are. And that's why I'm going to pull that out and talk about it separately. Okay? So, but those are the main registers. Now, so here are the other aspects that I didn't want to talk about because it gets a little bit trickier. So we have this middle area. And sometimes it is referred to as the mix. And that is really just a coordination between the muscle that is more dominant in your chest voice and the muscle that is more dominant in your head voice. And it's like coupling that, like coordinating those muscles and how they can like work at the same time, work in conjunction with each other and like transition from one to the other. And also coupling that with like how your vowels are shaped and how your mouth and your throat are shaped. And we do different exercises and different things to help train your voice to coordinate in that way. And by we, I mean voice teachers and singers in general. We have to find ways to help bridge the chest voice and the head voice in a way that doesn't feel like a drastic crack in the voice or a drastic change in the voice when you're going from that lower register to that higher register, when you're going from the thick chords to the thin chords. So what happens is that in the notes that are kind of between where the chest voice is kind of starting to transition, and in the female voice, that's usually around, if you know the piano, it's usually around that D above middle C, like not middle C, but then D, middle D, if you will. D4 is the term if you know piano. D4, that is where the voice can start to change and turn depending on the singer. Everyone's voice is different, but that's where the chest voice, the muscle that's dominant in the chest voice, which is the thyroarytenoid muscle, when that muscle will start to kind of give into the muscle that is more dominant in the head voice, the cricothyroid muscle. So when that happens, there's going to be there can be a break in the voice if we haven't coordinated how to transition smoothly and using not only by just what's happening at your vocal fold level, but really it's more of an acoustic change. It's what's happening in your vocal tract, so your throat and your mouth. So we're gonna that's in that middle voice area is where there's vowels. Vowels are really important and really helpful for creating the sound that you want. And the space in your mouth, the resonant space where the sound resonates, it's really important in that middle area. And so what can happen is that as you get higher, as you kind of get out of chest voice and you're in head voice technically, but you can start to bring up a little bit of that chest voice into that area and also have some of the quality of the head voice too. And use your vowels and your shaping of your mouth and your throat to kind of produce a sound that sounds like it's mixing both qualities of the chest voice and the head voice, which is super exciting. And it's so fun to play around with that. Don't see it as so technical, but see it as something that's fun, trying to see if you can bring some of the chest voice into that more head voice dominant area and bring some of the head voice down into the more chest voice dominant area, and see if you can bring both qualities together is something that can be a fun experimental thing. And sometimes as singers, we're we have to get it perfect. We have to hit the note with this right power and blah, blah, blah. And it's when you're training and you're practicing and you're doing exercises, think of it as play. Think of it as experimentation. And there are healthy ways, of course, to experiment, but in a healthy way, of course. And so that's what hopefully a voice teacher will help you do as well. Another thing to think about is, again, falsetto. I mentioned it earlier, but it's typically used to describe the male voice, the male head voice, but it's also can be seen as a stylistic choice, as just a more light, even airier style of head voice. So you might be singing in your head voice and you lighten it up even more. So you go from hey in your head voice, hey, to hey. Did you hear the slight lightening? I hope that I hope that you could hear that. But that is how we can add some stylistic flavor and colors to our voice, is using falsetto. So it's more of a style than a register, but again, it's all semantics. Some people will say it's falsetto, that is a register. Some people will say it's style. I mean, honestly, who cares? As long as you know what you're like what you're referring to, that you understand the context that they're using it in, I truly don't think that you should let semantics bog you down as a singer. Just do your best to understand what these things are, how they work in your voice, and then utilize them in your favor. So again, remember why this is important. I'm not just telling you this because it's nice to know. Like, it's important because you get to have options as a singer. It's so important that you know how your voice works. You understand that you can go from fry in mode 0 to chest voice in mode 1, and then in that middle area you can play around with incorporating mode 1 and mode 2, and then you can go into head voice, full head voice in mode 2, and then you can go to mode 3, you can go to whistle. Yes, you can. I could too. I can too once I've warmed up. Not right now, but I can, right? You can do all these things when you know that this is how your instrument works. And some of us, we just don't know. And we should, okay? So I want you to practice singing in these different registers today. Try singing in your chest voice, sing in your head voice. Notice which one feels easier for you. Maybe then you need to start working on strengthening the other one. If head voice feels hard for you to sing that lightly, then maybe you need to start working on some head voice exercises. And you guys know I have them. So scroll back on my podcast. I don't even know what episode it is, but I have I have exercises for head voice and for chest voice. So don't you worry. I got you guys. Go back. Let me see. Go back to episode, if you want to work on your chest voice, if you feel like your chest voice isn't strong enough, you need to go back to episode 242, 3 chest voice exercises for female singers. There you go, my loves. There you go. And if you feel like your head voice isn't quite where you want it to be, then go to, okay, here we go. Episode 244, 3 head voice exercises for female singers. There you go. Okay, go do some of those exercises to strengthen the part of your voice that doesn't feel super solid, that you don't feel super strong in. And there you go. Like, you have now started to find ways to develop those registers as a singer. Okay, so, and if you have a challenge with coordinating the registers with mixing, if you're having a hard time in that middle part of the voice, if you feel like it's too light or it's too heavy and you're not able to incorporate both parts of both, like a little bit of the chest voice and a little bit of the head voice, if you're not able to incorporate both in that middle area, I also have mixing exercises as well. Let's see. You can go listen to my episode actually with one of my voice students. We worked on register blending. That's episode 223. If you want to go back and listen to that and see if that helps you a little bit. And I have like other episodes in the past where I worked on like mixing and stuff like that, mixing exercises. And so, yeah, I hope this helps you to understand a little bit more about the registers as a singer. And I hope that this encourages you. Oh, you can go listen to, it was a bonus episode, but it was released on January 31st. Sing higher notes and start mixing with this vocal warm-up. So that's a little bit for mixing as well as higher notes. But yeah, I hope this helps you to hear about these registers, to understand why they're important. And I hope that you start using them. Like, I hope you start engaging in the different parts of your voice with more intention, right? And I hope you realize that you have so many options. You can do this. Thank you so much for being here. Have an amazing day, and I will talk to you later. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode and to this show. I'm so in awe of you for being here and showing up for your creative gifts. That takes courage. Don't forget to join the Performing Arts community on Facebook for support and inspiration as you continue on your journey. If this episode helped or inspired you in any way, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and share it with someone. It means so much. Thank you again, and don't forget to keep singing, acting, dancing, performing, and living creatively. Talk to you next time.